So the dreaded hook, and we've just seen there that golf ball go so far left, it's definitely going to get us in trouble on the golf course. And unfortunately, when the golf ball has got that right to left curvature on it for the right-handed golfer, it dives very quickly, it rolls a long way, and it always ends up in trouble. A lot of people will say you can't talk to a hook. It doesn't sort of come down soft for you. It just goes, it keeps running towards trouble, and then you find yourself trying to avoid trees on the next golf shot. So I'm going to talk you through a couple of reasons why you may be hooking the golf ball, but more importantly, I'm going to give you some ways in which you can prevent the hook of the golf ball and start to change that ball flight a little bit more. So number one, we're going to talk about the grip. And I think what I see a lot of the time with somebody who's hooking the golf ball is they set up with a really strong grip. So for a right-handed golfer, that left hand may be over the top of the club a little too much, and I can see sort of 3 or 4 knuckles here, and that right hand sits way underneath, so my palm is looking upwards. And what that ultimately gives us the chance of doing is really closing this club face. And if we look at that golf shot I hit at the start, the biggest problem was that golf club face was heavily closed, so the ball is always going to go to the left. So we're going to try and change this grip a little bit, and what we're going to look for instead is a slightly more neutral grip, and bring that left hand around the club a little bit, so now you can only see 2 knuckles on that lead hand. Make sure you're keeping the club face square at all times, but now only 2 knuckles as opposed to 4. And then with the right hand, again, we're just going to follow suit. We're not going to get underneath the club with the ability to twist that face. We're now going to start to get that hand a bit more on top of the golf club. So now I can see 1.5 knuckles on the right hand. So if you just take a look at that grip there, there's the neutral grip we want to start adopting. And then that might be the way you currently look in setup. Again, meaning that you can very easily twist that club face closed. And we need to understand then what that grip is going to affect. And as you can see me there, just twisting the club face, the grip, the way you hold the club, has a direct influence on where this club face tends to look throughout your swing. And with somebody who hooks the golf ball, what I will see often is when they get to the top of the golf swing, they have a very closed club face, meaning now that club face is looking up to the sky rather than being square where we would want it. So what I want you to try and do instead is when you make that backswing, try and get the club face at 45-ish degrees, kind of matching that left forearm. And a really good way of doing this, I've just got a junior club here because now naturally I feel like this is much closer to my hand and I can see how much of an influence I can have on that. And when you make this backswing, just start trying to get that leading edge of the club matching the forearm as opposed to where you may be, which is currently looking up to the sky. And you'll probably find that a little easier once you've done step 1 and you take a look at your grip, because that strong grip is going to promote a closed club face at the top. So step number 1, make sure you're gripping the club correctly. Step number 2, make sure your club face is square at the top of your golf swing. And then number 3, and we're talking about swing plane, and what I see so often with somebody who's hooking the golf ball is they get underneath the swing plane quite aggressively, and we'll get to the top of that golf swing with the strong grip and the club face looking up to the sky, and then the natural response there is to sort of lean back, let the hips move forward and drop that club head so far behind us with the butt of the club pointing out towards the fence that we've now got to start to throw and roll, and we can now start to see that my club path is swinging from in to out, and we've spoke about that grip promoting the rotation of the hand. So we now end up with a club path going in to out and with the club face closed, and there's only one way that golf ball is going, and it is left. So we've got to again try and change that club path a touch. So let's understand about swing plane, and we're going to do all of this with our new grip, with our neutral grip, and we're going to make sure we get to the top of our swing with our square club face. Now, a golf club that swings under the swing plane is something that swings under this imaginary 45-degree line. Okay, so if we were on swing plane, what we would start to see is the golf club swing up that swing plane, hopefully, but more importantly, swinging back down on that 45-degree line. But what we will see with somebody who's hooking the golf ball is they will get the golf club underneath that 45-degree line and swing out to the right. So I just want you to then stand there, like I say, with the new grip, get into the new club face position at the top of 45 degrees, and I want you to then start to just bring this golf club down so the butt of the club looks at the golf ball and that the shaft of the club matches your right forearm as that is now. The shaft of that club's just sitting on that right forearm. It's not getting underneath, it's not getting too flat. And just a rehearsal of that in the mirror, or a rehearsal in the mirror, or rehearsal with a camera, but just make sure that you're getting a bit more out in front of you with the hands, not getting stuck behind. And once we've rehearsed that a few times on that 45-degree line with the good club face, that's where we can start to make a golf swing and see if we change that ball flight. So as we mentioned before, we're just going to get that grip now a little more neutral for this golf shot. We're not going to be so strong. We're going to make sure that we get to the top of the golf swing and we got that club face feeling more square. Probably for somebody who's hooking the golf ball, you want it to feel open because you're so used to having it closed. And we're going to be conscious that we don't get the golf club too far on the inside. Now straight away there we see a much better ball flight. There's even a little bit of a fade on that. And then when we go to look into the numbers on the flight scope, what we start to see is a much more neutral club path, and more importantly, control of that club face. That club face is no longer too far to the left, so that ball flies a lot straight. I had a little bit of a fade on it because I've hit slightly on the heel side of the sweet spot there, so it did just fade off a touch. That's something to do with gear effect, and if you need to know what gear effect is and you want to understand that, then there is a video on my channel which will explain it, so do go and take a look. But that basically affects the golf ball flight a little bit differently. So guys, if you've enjoyed that golf lesson and you think that that's going to really help you stop hooking the golf ball, it's going to straighten up that ball flight, go and give that a go. Make sure you understand what you're trying to do, and I will see you in the next lesson.